Yes, sir. Best gambler in motherfucking Texas with another PS motherfucking A. Still ain't met a nigga that can beat me to this day. Literally. Tag your opponent, tag your motherfucking best gambler, whatever city and what state. We might pull up, get that nigga a flight one way. Come out here and get you a motherfucking appointment. You see, this ain't nothing but motherfucking opportunity. No, this ain't no prop money. This is opportunity when you see this shit. Literally. One night, couple bets, you can get this kind of shit. But all you gotta do is hit the DM and tap in and get your motherfucking appointment. Every day when I say book your appointment, I don't be bullshitting. We'll pull up to your apartment, your CNC, your hotel. We can make it a quick visit, but we gonna make it private. Literally, we don't want no roaches in that motherfucker trying to make $1 into something. Literally.
The afternoon sun beat down on Slappy's Car Wash in Forest Hill, Texas on March 3rd, 2025. Customers went about their routine, washing away winter grime, vacuuming interiors, and chatting casually as soap bubbles danced in the air. Among them was 30-year-old Ronnie Sibley, known to fans as G-Money LilRonnie, a rising voice in North Texas hip-hop. His maroon Challenger gleamed under the midday light as his 5-year-old daughter, Ronnie, waited inside. No one noticed the white Kia pulling into the lot. No one saw the two men scanning the area, hands hovering near their waistbands. No one expected what would happen in the next 47 seconds. Security cameras captured the moment when ordinary turned to horrific, when two armed men spotted Sibley and began their pursuit across the asphalt. The footage shows Sibley's expression changing from confusion to terror as he realized what was happening. He ran, perhaps thinking of his daughter sitting in his car just yards away. The sounds of gunshots echoed through the car wash, drowning out the mechanical hum of vacuum cleaners and pressure washers. Customers dropped to the ground. Some ran, others froze in disbelief. When the gunmen fled, they left behind more than shell casings scattered across the pavement. They left a community in shock, a family shattered, and questions that would haunt Forest Hill for months to come. What drove these men to hunt down a father in broad daylight? Why didn't they spare the life of an innocent 5-year-old girl? And how did a city that recorded 0 homicides in 2024 suddenly find itself confronting its 4th and 5th murders of the new year? The story of Ronnie and Romani Sibley isn't just about a rapper and his daughter. It's about a family that had already lost too much to gun violence. It's about a community struggling to understand the sudden surge of bloodshed on their streets. And it's about the devastating ripple effects that extend far beyond the crime scene tape. If you've ever witnessed violence in your community, drop a comment below. Where are you watching from today? Your perspective matters as we examine how quickly life can change when violence strikes without warning. Before he became G-Money LilRonnie, Ronnie Sibley was a young man from Fort Worth with dreams bigger than his circumstances. Growing up in North Texas wasn't easy for Sibley. In a 2023 interview with Off the Porch, he described his childhood as rough, marked by significant losses that would shape his outlook on life. I lost my grandmother early, and then my brother went to prison when I was still finding my way, Sibley said in that interview. You either fold or you keep going. I chose to keep going. That phrase, keep going, became more than just words for Sibley. It transformed into his personal mantra, one that guided him through the darkest periods of his life and eventually became a recurring theme in his music. By 2018, Sibley had begun making waves in the local music scene. His breakthrough came with the release of Hood Fame Killuminati, a collaboration with fellow Fort Worth rapper Go Yayo. The track showcased Sibley's distinctive flow and raw storytelling ability, quickly accumulating millions of streams. By the time of his death, the song had amassed over 3.9 million plays on Spotify alone, an impressive achievement for an independent artist. Despite his growing success, Sibley remained frustrated by what he perceived as the music industry's neglect of Fort Worth talent. Dallas gets the spotlight, Houston gets the spotlight, but Fort Worth artists have to work twice as hard for half the recognition, he told a local radio station in 2024. That's why I grind the way I do, to put on for my city. But for all his dedication to music, those who knew Sibley best say his true passion was fatherhood. He was a devoted father to two daughters, 5-year-old Romani and her 12-year-old sister. Social media posts showed a different side of the rapper, coaching Romani's cheer squad practices, helping with homework, and celebrating birthdays with elaborate parties. "Ronnie lived for those girls," said Marcus Johnson, a childhood friend. "Everything he did, every show, every track, every hustle, was to give them opportunities he never had." Romani, a kindergartner at a Forest Hill elementary school, had inherited her father's charisma. As a member of the Safari Sports cheer squad, she was known for her bright smile and boundless energy. Videos shared by Sibley showed her practicing routines in their living room, her father cheering louder than anyone. What makes the story of G-Money LilRonnie particularly heartbreaking is that music was supposed to be his escape from the cycle of violence that had already claimed too many people he loved. In his lyrics, Sibley often reflected on the dangers of street life and his determination to build something lasting through his art. In Tomorrow Ain't Promised, released just months before his death, Sibley rapped, "Lost too many brothers to these streets. Now my daughter asking questions that I can't answer. Why they take her uncle? Why her grandma gone? All I can tell her is we gotta be stronger." Those lyrics would prove tragically prophetic. Sibley's brother had been killed in 2013, and his mother died in 2023, both victims of gun violence. Now, in a cruel continuation of that pattern, Sibley and his youngest daughter would meet the same fate. As his music career gained momentum, Sibley had begun to explore opportunities beyond Fort Worth. There were talks of a regional tour, potential label interest, and collaborations with more established artists. Friends say he was excited about the future, making plans that would never come to fruition. "He was right on the edge of breaking through," said local producer DJ Smooth, who had worked with Sibley on several tracks. "That's what makes this so hard to accept. He was doing everything right, focusing on his craft, taking care of his family, staying away from trouble, and still this happened." March 3rd, 2025 began as an ordinary Monday in Forest Hill. The temperature hovered around 68 degrees, warm for early March in North Texas. For Ronnie Sibley, it was a day of routine tasks and family responsibility. According to friends, Sibley had spent the morning at a recording session in Arlington, working on tracks for an upcoming mixtape. Around noon, he picked up Romani from school for a dentist appointment. Text messages recovered from his phone show he planned to wash his car before heading to a meeting with a music promoter later that afternoon. At 2:17 p.m., security cameras at a gas station on Forest Hill Drive captured Sibley's maroon Challenger pulling in. Footage shows Romani skipping beside her father as they entered the store. They emerged 4 minutes later, Romani clutching a pink lemonade and a bag of chips. This mundane moment, a father buying snacks for his daughter, would be their last normal interaction. By 2:35 p.m., Sibley had arrived at Slappy's Carwash on Mansfield Highway. The business was moderately busy for a Monday afternoon. Witnesses recall seeing Sibley's distinctive car pull into the self-service bay. Romani remained in the passenger seat, visible through the window as she enjoyed her snack and watched videos on a tablet. What Sibley didn't know was that a white Kia Soul had followed him from the gas station.
This security camera video leaked from Slappy's Car Wash in Forest Hill shows Ronnie Sibley trying to get away from his attackers. Video shows them firing guns with his 5-year-old daughter, Armani Sibley, in the car. She and the popular 30-year-old Fort Worth rap artist known as G-Money LilRonnie did not survive gunfire Monday morning. It's the type of gun violence.
That's how I started Mothers of Murdered Angels.
Melinda Hamilton knows personally. She lost her 25-year-old daughter in 2017 and 19-year-old grandson in 2020. Today, she's one of the community leaders speaking out against the shootings that killed a Crowley ISD kindergartner, leaving a mother without her child.
We're here also to give them resources to help them in the need as they need right now.
This moment needs to be taken as a gun violence. We're going to stop it now, and we're going to put our foot down now, and this is it, because we can't keep doing this.
There's no justification for this violence. We call for an immediate cessation of the senseless killings that plague our streets.
Another father has taken another child, buried.
Minister Dominique Alexander is also outraged about the father-daughter killing. As president of the Next Generation Action Network, Alexander sent this message to the suspects.
It's simple. Turn yourself in. Don't draw this out.
As Forest Hill police look for 2 known suspects caught on camera during the shooting, a spokesperson for the family shared this.
Then on behalf of a mother, I would ask that they would do the right thing and that they would come forward, because at the end of the day, there's a mother somewhere, man, that's demanding justice.
In Forest Hill, I'm Scoop Jefferson.
The vehicle circled the car wash twice before parking near the vacuum stations. At 2:41 p.m., surveillance footage shows Sibley stepping away from his car to insert money into the wash machine. It was at this precise moment that 2 men exited the Kia, later identified as Adonis Robinson, 24, and Jacoby Russell, 21. They moved with clear purpose towards Sibley. A witness, Maria Gonzalez, who was vacuuming her SUV nearby, described what happened next. "I saw 2 young men walking fast, then running. The taller one pulled out a gun. The other man, the victim, saw them and started running. That's when everyone started screaming." The security footage later obtained by TMZ shows the horrifying sequence in stark detail. Sibley, spotting the armed men, immediately ran in the opposite direction from his car, perhaps trying to draw them away from his daughter. The footage shows him weaving between parked vehicles as Robinson and Russell pursue him, weapons raised. The chase lasted approximately 18 seconds before the first shots were fired. Witnesses reported hearing between 15 and 20 gunshots in rapid succession. Sibley collapsed near the entrance to the car wash office, but the violence wasn't over. After shooting Sibley, Robinson can be seen on the footage turning toward the maroon Challenger, where Armani remained. Despite the child being clearly visible in the passenger seat, multiple shots were fired into the vehicle. "They knew there was a child in that car," said Forest Hill Police Chief Dan Dennis in a later press conference. The video makes that abundantly clear. This wasn't just a murder, it was an execution. By 2:43 p.m., the shooters had returned to their vehicle and fled the scene. The entire attack lasted less than 2 minutes. Emergency calls flooded the Forest Hill Police Department. The first officers arrived at 2:47 p.m., followed by paramedics at 2:52 p.m. Despite immediate medical attention, Ronnie Sibley was pronounced dead at the scene. Romani, still strapped in her booster seat, was rushed to Cook Children's Medical Center in Fort Worth, where she died from her injuries at 3:38 p.m. As news of the shooting spread, family members and friends began gathering at the car wash, held back by yellow police tape. The scene was chaotic. Grief-stricken relatives collapsing in anguish, witnesses being interviewed by detectives, forensic teams marking dozens of shell casings scattered across the pavement. By nightfall, a makeshift memorial had formed near the entrance to Slappy's car wash. Stuffed animals, balloons, candles, and photos of Ronnie and Romani accumulated as community members came to pay their respects. Among the mourners was Sibley's 12-year-old daughter, who had lost her father and sister in a single act of violence. Local news crews captured the girl placing a teddy bear among the flowers, her face blank with shock. The image would become one of the most powerful symbols of the tragedy, a child forced to process an unimaginable loss. As darkness fell over Forest Hill that evening, investigators worked under portable lights, piecing together the sequence of events that had shattered so many lives. The white Kia had been captured on multiple surveillance cameras, providing a crucial lead, but the question that hung in the air unanswered was why? What could possibly motivate such a brutal attack on a father and his 5-year-old child? The hunt for Ronnie and Romani Sibley's killers began within minutes of the shooting. Forest Hill Police Department quickly realized they needed additional resources. By 4:30 p.m. on March 3rd, they had requested assistance from the Fort Worth Police Department and the Tarrant County Sheriff's Office. "This is a high-priority case," announced Forest Hill Police Chief Dan Dennis at an evening press briefing. "We have clear video evidence, multiple witnesses, and we will not rest until these suspects are in custody." The investigation's first breakthrough came from the surveillance footage. The white Kia Soul had distinctive damage to its rear bumper and a University of Texas decal on the back window. More importantly, cameras had captured a partial license plate. By midnight, investigators had identified the vehicle's owner, a 23-year-old woman from Arlington who claimed her car had been borrowed by her boyfriend, Jacoby Russell. When detectives ran Russell's name through their database, they discovered his connection to Adonis Robinson, a man with an extensive criminal history. Robinson's record painted a disturbing picture. At 24, he was already a convicted sex offender with prior arrests for assault, robbery, and weapons charges. He had been released from prison just 4 months earlier after serving time for a violent assault in Dallas County. Russell, though younger at 21, also had a troubling history, including pending charges for assault against a pregnant woman. The pair had known each other since high school and had been implicated together in several previous incidents. By dawn on March 4, Forest Hill police had issued capital murder warrants for both men, releasing their photos to the media and describing them as armed and dangerous. Digital billboards along I-20 and I-35 displayed their faces, and a $10,000 reward was offered for information leading to their capture. As the manhunt intensified, detectives began exploring potential motives. Initial speculation centered on Sibley's music career. Had lyrics or rivalries sparked deadly retaliation? Investigators combed through his social media accounts, music videos, and recent communications. Another theory emerged when detectives learned about Sibley's gambling activities. Sources close to the investigation revealed that Sibley was known to participate in high-stakes poker games around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Had a gambling debt or dispute led to the shooting? "We're pursuing multiple angles," said Detective Maria Ramirez, lead investigator on the case. "What makes this particularly challenging is the extreme nature of the violence. The deliberate targeting of a child suggests something beyond a typical dispute." The breakthrough in the manhunt came on March 6, when a tip led U.S. Marshals to a motel in Livingston, Texas, about 175 miles southeast of Forest Hill. There, they apprehended Adonis Robinson as he attempted to flee through a back window. Inside his room, authorities found a handgun that would later be matched to shell casings from the crime scene. Russell remained at large for another 24 hours before being captured at a relative's apartment in South Fort Worth. Body camera footage released by Fort Worth SWAT showed Russell hiding in a bedroom closet, surrendering without resistance when discovered. During initial questioning, both suspects refused to provide statements, immediately requesting attorneys. However, digital evidence from their phones would prove damning. Text messages exchanged between Robinson and Russell on the morning of March 3 referenced catching someone at a car wash and included the chilling directive, "No witnesses." As the suspects were booked into Tarrant County Jail on capital murder charges, more details about their connection to Sibley began to surface. A witness came forward claiming that Robinson had confronted Sibley at a club in Arlington 2 weeks before the shooting. The nature of their dispute remained unclear, but the encounter had reportedly ended with threats. "We believe this was a targeted assassination," Chief Dennis told reporters on March 8. The evidence suggests the suspects conducted surveillance on Mr. Sibley, followed him to the car wash, and executed a planned attack.
2 men are on the run this afternoon, suspected of shooting a man and his 5-year-old daughter in Forest Hill. Police just released their photos and tell us Adonis Robinson and Jacoby Russell are considered armed and dangerous. Investigators say they were involved in Monday's shooting at Slappy's Car Wash. Ronnie Sibley was a rapper known in the local music community as G-Money LilRonnie, and video shows him trying to get away while being shot at. Sibley's daughter, Ramani, was in the car and was also killed.
The most disturbing aspect of the case, the deliberate killing of 5-year-old Ramani, continued to baffle investigators. Had the child been killed simply because she could identify the shooters, or was her murder meant as an additional punishment for her father? In my 22 years of law enforcement, I've never seen such callous disregard for a child's life, said Tarrant County Sheriff Bill Wayborn. This crosses a line that shocks even the most experienced investigators. What do you think motivated this brutal attack? Share your theories in the comments. Was this related to Sibley's music career, gambling activities, or something else entirely? Your insights might shed light on this senseless tragedy. The murders of Ronnie and Robiny Sibley weren't just isolated acts of violence. They were the latest chapters in a family story repeatedly punctuated by gunfire. For the Sibley family, loss through violence had become a devastating pattern spanning generations. Lightning isn't supposed to strike the same place 3 times, said Rodney McIntosh, a family spokesperson, at a community vigil held on March 5th. But for this family, gun violence has struck again and again. The cycle began in 2013 when Ronnie's younger brother was shot and killed during an altercation outside a Fort Worth nightclub. He was just 19 years old. Ronnie, then 18, had been devastated by his brother's death, channeling his grief into his earliest recordings. He rapped about the pain of losing his brother and promised to make it out for both of them. 10 years later, in June 2023, tragedy struck again when Ronnie's mother was killed in a drive-by shooting while sitting on her front porch. The case remains unsolved. Friends say Ronnie was shattered by his mother's death, but remained strong for his daughters. Now, with Ronnie and Romani gone, the burden of these accumulated losses falls heavily on Sibley's surviving 12-year-old daughter. In less than 2 years, the young girl has lost her grandmother, father, and sister to gun violence. How does a child process that kind of trauma? Asked Dr. James Wilson, a psychologist specializing in grief counseling who has volunteered to work with the family. The psychological impact of witnessing your family systematically taken away by violence is profound and long-lasting. For the community, the loss of Romani has been particularly difficult to accept. While violence against adults, however tragic, has become distressingly common, the deliberate killing of a child crossed a threshold that left many struggling to cope. The Sibley family's story highlights a grim reality faced by many families in communities affected by gun violence: the compounding nature of trauma. Each loss builds upon previous grief, creating a heavy legacy that survivors must carry. People don't understand how this kind of repeated trauma affects a family across generations, explained McIntosh. Ronnie's grandmother lost a son to violence in the 1990s. His mother lost a son in 2013. Now his daughter has lost her father, sister, grandmother, and uncle, all to guns. The cycle has to stop. In the aftermath of the shooting, a GoFundMe campaign established for 12-year-old daughter future education has raised over $87,000. Community members have also organized meal trains, counseling services, and other support systems for the grieving child and her grandmother. But no amount of community support can fully heal the wounds inflicted by such profound loss. As one relative put it, how do you tell a 12-year-old girl that everything will be okay when her world keeps falling apart? The Sibley family's story forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about violence in our communities and its ripple effects across generations. It challenges us to consider what happens to those left behind, particularly children, when violence repeatedly strikes the same family. "We cannot bring back her father or her sister," said her grandmother during a brief statement to the press. "But we can fight to ensure that no other child experiences what my 12-year-old granddaughter has gone through. That is how we honor Ronnie and Romani's memory." Forest Hill, Texas is not a place that typically makes national headlines. This small city of 14,000 residents, nestled between Fort Worth and Arlington, has long been a quiet suburban community where many families have lived for generations. With its tree-lined streets and modest homes, it represents the kind of middle-class stability that defines much of suburban America. But in 2025, something changed in Forest Hill. The murders of Ronnie and Romani Sibley marked the 4th and 5th homicides of the year, a shocking statistic for a city that recorded 0 murders in 2024. "We've seen more bloodshed in the first 3 months of this year than in the previous 2 years combined," said Mayor Stephanie Boardingham at an emergency town hall meeting held on March 7. "This isn't the Forest Hill I grew up in. This isn't the community our residents deserve." Data from the Forest Hill Police Department shows a troubling trajectory. While violent crime rates had been declining since 2021, the start of 2025 brought a sudden and dramatic reversal. January began with a domestic violence incident that turned deadly. February saw 2 homicides related to an armed robbery at a convenience store. Then came the Sibley murders in March. 5 homicides might not sound like much to people from larger cities, explained Police Chief Dan Dennis, but for a community our size, it's unprecedented. It's equivalent to Dallas experiencing hundreds of murders in the same time frame. The surge in violence has left residents on edge. Local businesses report declining foot traffic, especially in the evening hours. Parents have become reluctant to let children play outside unsupervised. The car wash where the Sibleys were killed has seen its business drop by 70% since the shooting. People are scared, said Miguel Ramirez, owner of a barber shop across from Slappy's Car Wash. My customers talk about nothing else. They want to know if their families are safe, if their children are safe. I don't have answers for them. Crime statistics from neighboring communities show that Forest Hill isn't alone in experiencing this uptick. According to data from the Fort Worth report, gun violence has increased throughout Tarrant County in early 2025, with a 23% rise in shootings compared to the same period last year. What's driving this sudden increase? Experts point to several factors. We're seeing the aftermath of pandemic stresses, explained Dr. Alicia Washington, a criminologist at the University of Texas at Arlington. Economic pressures, disrupted social services, and increased gun purchases during 2020 to 2022 are now manifesting in higher violence rates in communities that were previously stable. Others point to more localized issues. Forest Hill has experienced rapid demographic changes in recent years, with new housing developments bringing an influx of residents. Some longtime community members suggest that these changes have disrupted neighborhood cohesion and informal social controls that once helped prevent violence. Law enforcement officials have their own theories. We're seeing more gang activity spilling over from larger cities, said Detective James Wilson of the Forest Hill Police Department. Groups from Fort Worth and Dallas are expanding their territory, bringing conflicts with them. The response from city leadership has been multifaceted. Mayor Boardingham announced the formation of a violence prevention task force, bringing together law enforcement, educators, religious leaders, and youth advocates. The city council approved emergency funding for additional police patrols and community outreach programs. Fort Worth City Council member Chris Nettles, whose district borders Forest Hill, has called for a regional approach to addressing gun violence. These problems don't respect city boundaries, Nettles said during a joint press conference with Forest Hill officials. We need coordination between all Tarrant County communities to effectively address the root causes. Community-based organizations have also mobilized. Mothers Against Gun Violence, a group formed after the February convenience store shootings, has organized neighborhood watch programs and youth mentoring initiatives. Local churches have extended their hours to provide safe spaces for teenagers after school. For residents of Forest Hill, the Sibley murders represent more than just a crime statistic. They symbolize a frightening shift in their community's identity. I've lived here for 32 years, said Eleanor Washington, who resides 3 blocks from Slappy's Car Wash. We've always had our problems, but nothing like this. When they killed that little girl in broad daylight, something fundamental changed. It's like we crossed a line we can't go back from. The question now facing Forest Hill is whether the violence of early 2025 represents a temporary spike or a new normal. City officials are determined to ensure it's the former. We refuse to accept this level of violence as our reality, Mayor Boardingham declared at the conclusion of the town hall meeting. Forest Hill has always been a community where people look out for each other. That hasn't changed. Together we will reclaim our streets and restore safety for all our residents. As the community grapples with these challenges, the memory of Ronnie and Bronmi Sibley serves as both a heartbreaking reminder of what's been lost and a powerful motivation to prevent future tragedies. Days after the murders of Ronnie and Rumani Sibley, the what and how had been established through evidence and witness testimony. The who had been identified and apprehended, but the most haunting question remained unanswered. Why? Why would two young men chase down and execute a father and his 5-year-old daughter in broad daylight? What could possibly motivate such a brazen and brutal attack? As Adonis Robinson and Jacoby Russell awaited trial in Tarrant County Jail, investigators continued to probe possible motives. Their silence, both suspects refused to cooperate with authorities, left detectives piecing together a puzzle with crucial pieces missing. The most compelling theory centers on Sibley's music career. In the weeks before his death, he had been in discussions with a Dallas-based record label about a potential distribution deal. This opportunity represented a significant step forward in his career and possibly a threat to rivals. Competition in the music industry can be fierce, explained Marcus Johnson, a music producer who had worked with Sibley. When an artist starts gaining recognition, it can create jealousy. Some people would rather tear someone down than see them succeed. Investigators discovered that Robinson had attempted to launch his own rap career under the name A-Rob in 2022, releasing several tracks on SoundCloud that gained minimal traction. Had he viewed Sibley's success with resentment? Social media records showed Robinson had left negative comments on several of Sibley's music videos in the months before the shooting. Another line of inquiry focuses on Sibley's gambling activities. According to multiple sources, he frequently participated in high-stakes poker games throughout the Dallas-Fort Worth area. These underground games, often involving thousands of dollars, attract players from various backgrounds, including those connected to criminal networks. Ronnie was good at cards, said a friend who requested anonymity. He won more than he lost. But in that world, winning can be dangerous if you beat the wrong person. Financial records show unusual cash withdrawals from Sibley's bank account in the weeks before his death, including $7,000 removed 3 days before the shooting. Was this money for a music project, as his family believes, or payment for a gambling debt? A third possibility involves mistaken identity or a random act of violence, though investigators consider this unlikely given the targeted nature of the attack. The text messages between Robinson and Russell referencing catching someone at the car wash suggest premeditation and a specific target. Perhaps most baffling is the killing of Rumani. Even in cases involving disputes between adults, children are typically spared. The deliberate shooting of a 5-year-old girl defies conventional criminal behavior. That's what keeps me up at night, admitted Chief Dennis. I've seen a lot in my career, but the intentional killing of a child, that suggests something beyond a typical dispute or retaliation. The murders of Ronnie and Rumani Sibley represent more than just a tragic news story. They illuminate a broader crisis affecting communities across America. Their deaths exist at the intersection of multiple social issues: gun violence, cycles of trauma, and the struggle to protect children in communities where violence has become normalized. When we lose someone to gun violence, we don't just lose that person, explained Dr. Vanessa Williams, director of the Trauma Recovery Center at UT Southwestern. We lose all they would have contributed to society. We lose the positive influence they might have had on others, and we create new trauma that ripples outward, affecting families and communities for generations. This ripple effect is clearly visible in the Sibley case. A 12-year-old girl has lost her father, sister, grandmother, and uncle to gun violence in less than 2 years. Classmates of Rumani are now grappling with the concept of mortality at an age when such understanding should be years away. A music community has lost a voice that spoke to their experiences. These impacts cannot be measured in crime statistics. Breaking this cycle requires a multifaceted approach that addresses both immediate safety concerns and underlying causes. In Forest Hill, community leaders are implementing strategies that could serve as a model for other communities facing similar challenges. The first step involves immediate intervention with those most affected by violence. Children who witness or experience violence often carry that trauma into adulthood, explained school counselor James Martinez. Without proper support, they may develop unhealthy coping mechanisms, including aggression. By intervening early, we can help break that cycle. For adults, community-based organizations like Mothers of Murdered Angels provide crucial support. Founded by women who have lost children to violence, the group offers both emotional support and practical assistance to families navigating the aftermath of homicide. Beyond immediate intervention, long-term prevention requires addressing root causes. Economic opportunity plays a crucial role in prevention as well. A job isn't just income, it's purpose, structure, and a stake in the community, said Corporation Director Sandra Thompson. When young people have legitimate economic opportunities, they're less likely to engage in activities that lead to violence. Law enforcement approaches are evolving too. We can't arrest our way out of this problem, acknowledged Chief Dennis. Prevention requires partnership between police and the communities we serve. We need to be seen as allies, not occupiers. Religious institutions have also stepped forward. A coalition of churches, mosques, and synagogues has formed the Forest Hill Faith Alliance, offering their facilities as safe spaces for youth activities and community meetings. They've also established a violence interruption team that mediates conflicts before they escalate to violence. Perhaps most powerful are the voices of those directly affected by gun violence. Survivors and family members have formed advocacy groups pushing for policy changes at local and state levels. Their personal testimonies transform statistics into stories that lawmakers cannot easily dismiss. The path forward requires commitment from every sector of society: government, education, healthcare, business, faith communities, and individual citizens. It demands both immediate action to address current violence and long-term strategies to prevent future tragedies. The story of Ronnie and Romani Sibley reminds us of what's at stake. Behind every statistic are human beings with dreams, talents, and connections. A father who wanted to build a better life through his music. A 5-year-old girl who loved to dance. A family forever altered by their absence. Their story challenges us to ask difficult questions about our communities and our responsibilities to one another. It urges us to move beyond momentary outrage to sustained action. Most importantly, it reminds us that breaking cycles of violence is not just a policy goal, it's a moral imperative. Outside Slappy's Car Wash, the makeshift memorial continues to grow. Stuffed animals, candles, photographs, and handwritten notes cover nearly 30 feet of sidewalk. Among the tributes are Romani's cheer uniform and a poster board filled with handprints from her kindergarten classmates. Ronnie's 12-year-old daughter, who now faces life without her father and younger sister, has been staying with her maternal grandmother since the shooting. Family members have requested privacy for the child, asking media to refrain from publishing her name or image as she navigates this traumatic period. "She's just a child who has lost nearly everyone she loves," said Rodney McIntosh, the family spokesperson. "Right now, our priority is protecting her and helping her process this unimaginable grief." In the music community, G-Money LilRonnie's work has found a new audience in the days following his death. His streaming numbers have increased dramatically, with hood fame Killuminati gaining particular attention. Fellow artists from the North Texas hip-hop scene have shared tributes on social media, with many noting Sibley's dedication to his craft and his family. "He was on the verge of breaking through," wrote Dallas-based producer King Vicious in an Instagram post. "Ronnie had the talent and the drive. He deserved to see his music reach the audience it's finding now." At Romani's elementary school, counselors have been present all week to help students and staff process the tragedy. Her kindergarten teacher described the classroom as missing its brightest light and shared that students had created cards for Romani's family expressing their love for their friend. The Safari Sports Cheer Squad, where Romani was a member, held a candlelight vigil on March 7th. The young cheerleaders released pink balloons into the evening sky as coaches and parents stood in a protective circle around them. While the community grieves, law enforcement continues building their case against Adonis Robinson and Jacoby Russell, Both suspects made their first court appearances on March 8, where they were formally charged with capital murder. Neither entered a plea, and both were appointed public defenders. This case is still in its early stages, cautioned District Attorney Sharon Wilson. We are methodically gathering and processing evidence to ensure justice is served. The investigation remains active and ongoing. For Forest Hill Police Chief Dan Dennis, the case represents both a professional priority and a personal mission. In my 22 years of law enforcement, I've never seen a crime that affected our community so deeply, he said during a March 8 press briefing. We owe it to the victims and their family to build an airtight case. Community leaders are already discussing more permanent memorials for Ronnie and Romani. Proposals include naming a recording studio at the community center after G Money LilRonnie and establishing a scholarship in Romani's name for young cheerleaders who cannot afford program fees. We want their legacy to be about more than how they died, explained Mayor Boardingham. We want to honor how they lived and what they meant to our community. As Forest Hill begins the long process of healing, residents acknowledge that their city has been fundamentally changed by this tragedy. The sense of security many took for granted has been shattered. Parents hold their children closer. Neighbors check on each other more frequently. Yet amid the grief and fear, there are also signs of resilience and determination. Community meetings about violence prevention have drawn record attendance. Volunteer lists for youth mentoring programs have doubled. Residents who previously kept to themselves are finding ways to connect and support one another. This tragedy has shown us the worst of humanity, said Pastor Michael Williams during a community prayer service. But the response has shown us the best. We cannot bring back those we've lost, but we can honor them by building a community where such violence becomes unthinkable. This tragedy has left a 12-year-old girl without her father and sister. Share this video to raise awareness about gun violence in our communities. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Shadows of Crime for more stories that need to be told. Together, we can work toward a world where children like Armani grow up to fulfill their potential, and artists like G Money LilRonnie can share their gifts for years to come.